Can you guys hear me okay? There we go. I think it's working. All right. Um, yeah, so probably I'm not gonna chop out the first half of the video. Oh, excuse me. So there's gonna be like a weird spot in the video where there's gonna be no sound, unfortunately. You guys can hear me okay, right? I don't know if you guys are being silent or if you can
Hold
hear
on,
me.
yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you.
Okay, okay. Gotcha. I just want to make sure. Yeah, no, I was talking to myself for about a good 5 minutes there, and I realized my mic wasn't on. Always fun. So, no, I just wanted to kind of, I don't, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. What's happening, I guess, in the news is bad in the aspect of to people, right? To people. But I'm not going to take a side. I'm not going to take a stance or anything like that. That's not my position. I don't live there. I don't know what goes on there. And I think a lot of people are trying to take stances as if they know what's going on there. Just don't know if that's the right approach personally. Um, but I do want to say a lot of people right now on Twitter are trying to capitalize on what's going on in what I think is a predatory way. And I don't think it's right. That's why I'm not entertaining it and or talking about it on Twitter because what happened is it's a devastation, and it's just something that's been going on for a long time over there, from my understanding. But again, I don't live there. But when it comes to markets specifically, I don't know if that shakes markets or if that causes some kind of capitulation of it to markets personally. I would think if it does, it's going to be more like a COVID scenario where markets basically rip to the downside and then rip back up versus actually getting wrecked to a high degree and just stay there. So I want to throw that out there. It's kind of like a starter, just so people kind of know where I stand on that, because I feel like a lot of people have asked me, what about the war? What about war? What about the war? What about oil? What about gold? Like these things are going to be what they are. In fact, they're going to be what they have been. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick today, guys. But arguably, the market is moving the direction it's moving. It has been moving the direction it's moving because of the market, not because of what's going on today, not because what's going on or what could be going on a week from now. If you remember, you're in a very similar situation with, and I think a lot of people have short term memory, but with the Ukraine war, right, where they basically said, "Oh, we're not going to invade," and then they invaded. And then the whole market is like, oh no, it's going to be all these things, everybody sell. And what happened almost directly after? Well, we basically got the market turned back up, and it continued to rally. So you have to be careful with following narratives or looking for black swans versus just investing, right? So that's kind of the message I'm trying to voice here, not necessarily give an opinion again on what's going on, but I want to voice out that be smart about your money and understand when you're being distracted. And I feel like with the way this has been pushed out there, through social media, that they're trying to distract people. They're trying to keep people from looking where they can pull a sleight of hand. And by they, I mean governments, media, so on and so forth, working in a coup together to try and get people's attention away from what's actually going on here and try and get them hyper focused on rage bait elsewhere. I think everybody who is here should remain on what's going on here. And when I say here, I mean the market specifically, and continue to not be distracted, right? Stay away from the distractions and stay focused on what you're trying to achieve. You can always help people more if you have money. If you have no money, all you can do is sit in the corner and scream about your feelings, right? So I would say stay focused on your goals. Don't get caught up in the BS of what's going on. And I don't mean like BS like what the situation, but like what people are doing on Twitter is wrong, in my opinion. But we can get into the charts a little bit. I think I spoke enough on it. Share. So when I look at markets specifically, um, again, we're just kind of like in these capitulatory scenarios, like ELGD. Like I don't know, like some of you have been around a really long time, some of you might be new. This is like a lot of these charts have just had for a really long time. You can see here where I had like expectations of a drop here, and then I had to redraw my scenario, and then I had expectations for a drop here. But ultimately, I wasn't wrong on where it would go. I was wrong on timing, right? And being wrong on timing can be just as bad as being wrong in general if you're trading on timing, right? So we can see here like this coin has basically just been getting crushed. I just want to use this as an example that people can kind of reach out to and use this kind of like a staple against whatever they're trying to achieve with the current crypto market. But crypto's been just in this downtrend, right? You just keep hitting the floor here on the ELGD and you keep forming lower lows. And this is something that can keep on occurring until we get some kind of bull div showing us the way out, right? So for now, expectations are, and you can see here, like I didn't draw any of this today. I did this a long time ago. My expectation was price would come back to here, rest here, and take off from here. And we're here, right? We're here ultimately. And this is from a coin that was literally valued at like almost $600 in 2021. Pretty insane pricing. Now currently traded around $23. And so there's a lot of value in the market specifically, but I want to be adamant about a lot of people chasing last cycle's coins and thinking you're going to get 1000Xs because it's just not going to happen. Now, some of you may be like, well, where are the 1000Xs? I can tell you if you're intending to buy the 1000Xs, I've thought about this a lot. Like, I feel like you're going to be taking on a lot of risk, right? And if you're looking for 1000Xs, you're ideally looking for new projects, not these old ones. These old ones, there's a lot of bag holders in them. Whereas, like, I mean, you'll eventually break through a lot of the bag holders to the upside and you may be like, well, I can get up to $600 with this, and it's on 23. And if we did the math on that, you're looking like a 20 something X. And yeah, I mean, arguably that could happen, or theoretically, you could trade up to like 70, 80, 90 and fall over from there. And that's the top of your bull run for this coin. So you have to be careful about expectations, right? So always keep your expectations rational. And understand again that there's a lot of bag holders, not only to the upside that went out, but a lot of people that bought in over here that are waiting to sell as soon as price gets back up here, right? So they're gonna be applying selling pressure to these markets. So be rational with your thoughts, be rational with your ideas, and if we break here for EGLD, we could easily be trading like the $7-6 range, and then people are going to be like, "Oh, it's going to come out here." But the reality is, like, this would be the last stop.
Recording in progress.
Where I would think that price would go, right? So, my expectations are pretty clear with this one. I'm not buying EGLD. I've thought about it. Like, I'm not interested. These are just things I was looking at last second. I was like, "Oh, I'll just keep an eye on these and watch how they play down." I think there's better plays. But let's go over to AVAX. So this is a funny one. See, a lot of people were expecting a breakdown. Again, this is another chart I drew like literally like a year or two ago, and it almost played to it. You can see here, like I was off on my drawing, but like, was I really off? Was I really off? I don't know. I would say I was right on point. Maybe off on like where these drops would actually occur to the bounces, but I was expecting a wave down move, and that's what we got here. No real bull div or anything like that. Like these markets are basically just trading in a directionality that's telling me we're not reversing on the altcoin market, right? And I want to be clear about that because I know a lot of you like, oh, you've been bullish. I'm bullish on Bitcoin specifically going into the halving. And I think altcoins complete against that, right? We always got to remember that altcoins and Bitcoin are at certain points in the cycle are completely decoupled and different, right? Bitcoin I see a lot differently when I'm looking at it from like a chart perspective. And when I say differently, I mean like just basically what's occurred here, right? we basically had our massive drop, and then we basically raised, and we're kind of trading in this upper range over here, kind of similar to something like right in here. I like to take this out because I feel like too many people try to include it, but in reality, this was a black swan event, which again, these could occur at some point. But you're betting like you're going to the gas station and pulling a lottery ticket and saying, okay, I'm gonna win this 102, we'll say $5 billion lottery ticket, right? Because the lottery tickets get pretty obscene now. And that's how you're betting if you're betting on a black swan. So you have to keep your expectations grounded. So if my expectations are grounded, ideally I would just be looking to buy anywhere below the mid range, right? And what that means is like anytime price gets below here, I would be DCA, right? It could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, and then maybe hey, I catch some on the black swan, come back in and recapture price. As soon as you recapture price, you're really good to get back in, right? So a lot of people don't understand how this works. And let me explain this portion right here and why Bitcoin ran up after having that massive drop. And I'm gonna get rid of this box and I'm gonna lay it out from horizontal so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. But the one thing you saw from Bitcoin in 2019, 2020, all that good stuff, is you saw a POC essentially become kind of that position to where price wanted to hold, right? And so price right here was the bounce, then you deviated below, then you bounced back up, played below, came back up, hit resistance, and rolled. Sorry, my voice a little raspy, guys. I'm not feeling too well, but after that, you basically rolled under, came and you tried to recoup a little bit of it right over here, but you came back and you retested kind of your previous lows here. But look how much further you you are up from the previous cycle. Like so many people just they want to ignore this, right? And so your fallback here is arguably, I would say, probably not too far off from your previous high, right over here. So that's really the important thing to kind of here. Actually, we'll put it on the BLX, right? So I like to call this my bull bear cycle chart here. This is not an indicator, it's just something I went through and I kind of filled out the times of how long we probably sat in a bearish trending market, which is this downtrend market, versus how long we sat in an accumulation range, and then how long we sat into a bull market. Our accumulation ranges are typically the longest, right? So you get the long accumulation, then the decent bull, and then you get into the bear market again. And bull and bear are almost equal, while accumulation is much bigger typically than both. But basically, you came up, and if you were looking at it like this, it's a lot different than a lot of people that want to look at it like this, right? Because if you look at it like this, like if you look ideally, where was our high here on Bitcoin? Where was our high? Our high was here. So if we were to just tap the high here, we're not even trying to go like exponentials. Look how far we were off the high, right? And then if we were to come back over here and we were to do the same thing over here, we're gonna look at it there. Look how far we are off the high. And then we come back over here, right? And we tag it right here. And what do? We touch into the high and nobody wants it. Nobody wants it, right? Everybody's like, oh, it's gonna go deeper. It's gonna go deeper. Believe me, I was in the same camp for a little while. I was like, oh, this is gonna keep breaking down, yada yada. But then I had to like zoom out and look at this. We've never retested previous highs until this cycle, right? So that means that this cycle must have gotten really bearish, and really we didn't even really accumulate like we previously would have, right? We actually probably got cut short this cycle, even though there was a lot of money flow into it. And so arguably, once we kind of got below this range, you were in value, right? And you can see here from the exact point where I'm showing you on support, you are doing exactly what I'm talking about with, a lot of these coins that can kind of recapture the range. You came below value, which is anything below the previous high, and you caught support here, fell below value, held down here, traded up, ran back up, and nobody wanted to accept this right in here. That was your area of recapturing price, because once we got up here and I was like, oh, okay, we're going to dip to 19 and we're going to rip again. Everybody was still in the boat of fall over again. Everybody was still in that boat. And I was like, no, I was like, we already got the momentum move. They were already pushed above. Once they pushed above this high and recaptured the low end range, which is arguably right here, right? Once they did those two things, for me, the market flipped and went up. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw then at that point the pullback into the rip, and we moved up to the next level, right? Now you're arguably playing on a lot of liquidity here, right? So what I mean by that is a lot of people just want to see this retest of these FVGs that still exist, right? They're like, oh, they gotta fill, they gotta fill. No, they don't. They don't have to fill at all. And you can see here, we keep trying to retest this FVG, and what do we keep doing? We keep bouncing off it, right? There's a lot of liquidity that got filled here, and anytime you come back into the zone, they just push it back up. Come back to the zone, push it back up. And now we're kind of rejecting at the lower high. Now some are looking at this, bears especially are looking at this like this is a head and shoulders. This is not a head and shoulders. Why is it not a head and shoulders? Because there's no lower left shoulder. It's the same high. It's literally the same high. Like, this is not a head and shoulders at all. Like, even if we were to retest the high here, I would not take this as head and shoulders. You need your head to be like much, much higher. You want your head to exceed your shoulders. You don't have a head that's fit into your shoulders, right? You want to see this thing exceed that price. So because that hasn't occurred, this is not a head and shoulders in my opinion. I think we're just holding above value. What's value? Well, it's these price zones we just keep leaving behind. Now, keep in mind the same thing I'm talking about is stuff that we did previously, right? Now, some would argue, well, we came back and filled these. We came back and filled these ones. Okay, that's fine. Did we come back and we fill this right here? Did we come back and fill this right here? Did we come back and fill this right here? No, we didn't fit. We didn't fill any of those. We just at a certain point rip, pull back, and then rip to the upside. You have to understand when your structure is directionally going a certain way, right? And what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing this becoming a major accumulation range on a higher time frame. And what do I mean by that? Well, if we look at pricing, we were to split this into two zones, I would flip it into one, right, which is your upper range, and then I would flip it into two, which is your lower range right here. And arguably it comes to right there, right? And we could even go with three here, but again, I think that's more of a deviation. Our ranges are almost equal, right? And not only is it a range, you have a lot of support for price in here. So yeah, support, 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 support. Like, and just people keep on expecting more and more downside. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 instances of price in this range. This is, you could arguably call this the point of control, right? It's where price wants to hover, whether it hovers from the lows or whether it hovers from the highs, but we're continuing to see support. Now, if price were to come below, I would not expect price to go any deeper than this. Why? Because this is your POC. It's like a magnet for price. It's going to pull price right back to it. My expectations were if we were going to go lower, we would come down, bounce, 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 and then dive, right? If we were going to do that. At that point, I could see a lower move, right? Especially if we came up, hit this high after breaking down, and then started to run back for the floor again, right? You could arguably take a short here, run this down. It's just how deep does that go, right? That's the other question here. Arguably, you're going to basically come back probably into different price zones. So you're going to have this price zone right in here. Sorry, guys, give me just a second. All right, sorry, I'm back. So arguably, I'd say like you're probably your best bet here is to maybe come back down and retest this 15 14K in a worst case scenario. But the reality is I don't think we are. I think we're accumulating up here in the range based on price. I gave you the scenario if we were going to go deeper, how that would play out. But think of it like this: we ranged here for a while, then we ranged here, then we ranged back up here. See how you're matching price on both sides, and then you break out, right? And then we range here for a while, and then let's say we range back down, then I would expect then at that point, boom, you break down, right? That would be your breakdown scenario if we were to do that. If we were to BART back down into this area and reject, 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 then I would say a breakdown. But we haven't even attempted to do that yet. So for now, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing price accumulated here, capitulated here, reaccumulated here in the range, and is now accumulating here, right? Until it isn't, until it isn't. And then at some point, this price has to do what? Well, it has to break out, right? And it has to break out into the halving. Here's your halving. The funny part is, if you look at our channel here from the lows, that's your support, right? So if we were to come back on price into this support here on the channel and into the halving, I mean, your breakout date for me would be somewhere around like September 24, end of the year 2024, probably beginning of year 2025, somewhere in there. Or at least the blow off top. One of the two, one of the two. But I would expect it would be not necessarily the blow off top. I would expect that it would be something like your blow up move, your explosive move to the upside. So if we were to take this to May, right around there is in May. So you could easily, as long as you hold this trend, come into this price zone and then break off of it, right? Break off the low back to the upside. So it's definitely some interesting times. I think a lot of people are just too scared to bid here. We did cover two this morning, something that we were looking at as far as data with that because Bitcoin, and that was savings, right? So savings are actually at historical lows. They're at lows. They're actually lower than the lows in 2008, which is lower than the lows of COVID, right? So right now retail's pretty wrecked. Retail doesn't have any money to buy. So if retail doesn't have any money to buy, who's bidding? Well, it's not retail. So when people say retail needs to get washed out, retail's gone. They're gone. And now assuming they'll be like, well, you're retail, I'm retail. Yes, we're the few that remain. When I say retail, I mean like all or most of your normie people that live and work in the world that don't own, some massive entity or business or corporation. They are all washed out outside of a select few, right? That are still sticking it out, still weathering the downturn of the market and still buying dips. So arguably, I would say like when we look at this range, I don't think this trades down. I think it trades sideways for now, personally. And if we were to trade down again, like at this point, if you were to trade down, you might deviate into the lower lows, but like it's gonna be pure luck and speculation at that point. If you caught that, and let's say it does get down there, it's literally luck. You weren't a good trader. You weren't a good. I mean, you may make a good trade off it. You weren't a good analyst or anything like that. Like it's just luck. Like to expect a move back down for a black swan move, you're essentially just throwing it in on black, and then if black hits, you're like, look, I'm some genius. That's not how we should be looking at markets. We should be looking at markets from the way that they're meant to be looked at, and that specifically to me is where's price ranging, and are we accumulating or are we distributing? A lot of people are looking at this as a distribution. I'm not. I am not. I am in the boat that this holds in price. Um, No. So I'm not moving the halving date to 2024. So the halving date's still static. I think it's between like May and June or something like that. What I'm saying is like you don't have to break out just because the halving occurs, right? So your halving, I believe, over here was like right here, right? This was your halving. Look how long you traded sideways until the breakout. See what I'm saying? So the halving doesn't have to mean that price go up. You can still continue to trade sideways until it actually kind of kicks in and people actually start holding and accumulating to push price up at that point. So expectations again are here for me are just that we could trade sideways into the lower range, which is basically 30, 20 to 30 range, and then breakout from there. We could be very volatile too. We could come over and trade sideways, dip down in. Everybody thinks we're going lower. We hit 19.5, bounce back up, hold the range again. Everybody thinks we're going lower, and then breakout, and it reverses against them. I would be really careful with this, man. Like, I think like people that are looking for wealth or generational opportunity, I think you're in that range. I think you're in that range. Um, we still have plenty of time. Yeah, we still have time to DCA, man. Like if you look here, September, October, November, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. I mean, I would say arguably somewhere's May, June, July, right? Like that's kind of your after you're having. I think again, the September 2024 at this point is your September of 2020, right before 2021. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking like your boom kind of occurs over here on the latter end, and then your price go up there from there, right? And a lot of people are like, "Whoa, they're gonna have another bull run because what's going on in the economy, whatever, whatever." I don't even care at this point. I've looked at so much data points. I've looked at so many different data points. That's like I've looked at oil, I've looked at gold. I cannot find the argument for sorry about that, for price go down. I just can't find it. Like I've looked and I've looked and I've looked. I've evaluated these markets over and over and over again, and I'm just like, the worst has already occurred. SBF's already in jail. Most of the bad actors are already in jail. Suzu just got arrested. Do Kwon got arrested. Like what? Like some people are like, well, Binance. Look, that's going to take some time. There's certain things that they have to weed themselves out of through time, and CZ arguably is not going down like that, man. I'll just tell you that. Like as much as people may want it to happen or think that it has to happen, it doesn't. It doesn't have to happen at all. They basically squeezed him out of the market, pushed him out of U.S. markets, pushed up Coinbase, and he's already out. Like he the only market he can service at this point really is Asia, right? He probably services a couple other countries outside of that, but that's his major clientele. And maybe in time they push him out of that. We'll see. It's definitely going to be interesting. Next, I think, couple cycles.
What do you think about the KuCoin doing KYC? Well,
Bro, I stopped using them. Literally stopped using them. I found other ways around. I'm using right now. I'm using Mexi. I'm using Coinbase. I'm using everything around KuCoin at this point. Like I I was personally already sketched a little bit about KuCoin, but I mean I've been using them for a long time, don't get me wrong. But like when I say sketch, I mean like I don't know the team behind it or anything like that. And then, after they started requiring KYC, I was like, bro, what? Why? I'm just not going to use you. I'll just pay a DEX, right? I'll just swap at a Uniswap or a Pancake Swap or something. Like I'm not gonna use KuCoin if they're gonna make things difficult. And
yeah.
they can't operate with U.S. citizens anyways. It says it right on there. So like their KYC thing is like the death of them. Essentially, they're gonna lose so much liquidity from that move.
Yeah. Yeah, MEXC says that on their site too, but I mean, I just run a VPN or whatever. But
Yeah, they don't care though. That's like these ones that let you run a VPN, they know where you're located, right? They already know this. They're turning a blind eye. That's how crypto's always been with the good CEXs. The bad ones, they want to play ball with the government, right?
hmm.
And And I'm not about that. That's why I stopped using KuCoin. I'm just like, you guys are gonna play ball with the government. I was like, all right, I'm just not. But yeah, I think it's interesting because it's like, how were they forced into the position necessarily have to have to KYC? Were they given I guess a letter? Like I don't understand why they would even go that route. Like it's
Yeah,
just
that's what I was wondering too.
freely doing it. I don't. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Please, come on, man.
Why is he
Come
good?
on.
I disputed him. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah,
Uh,
come on.
but yeah. So I mean, again, I'm looking at it like this: like accumulation, drop, deviation, back into the accumulation range. Nice pickup here, by the way. This wick and this move here was massive. And now we're just trading above, above what was considered value. So it is what it is at the end of the day. We could easily trade back in these ranges. Don't get me wrong, guys. Like I'm not at all 100% saying, hey, we can't trade back down here. But I'm definitely in the boat to where like I'm looking, I'm buying, I'm actively looking. Let me look. Do not FOMO projects. I'm gonna give you guys a couple examples, okay? So let me pull up a couple. I think it was DSLR. Was it DSLR? Let me hold on. Let me let this up. Give me 1 second, guys. I just gotta hold up my phone. But I want to show you guys like there has been in this market already coins that are in a secular bull run, even though the market's getting wrecked on both sides. In a good way too, a good way. So I'm gonna give you guys a couple here. Let me see. What was it? DSLA. That's what it was. So this one looks pretty good. No, that one. This one. So this is a little gimme one. All right. Now some people are like, "Oh, I gotta touch that because it's pumping." It's really low market cap. So it's a lot of risk with this one and stuff like that. But I want to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. See this right here? So this is 626 through all of this volatility. Look at this coin. What has it been doing? Anybody?
Fucking going crazy.
It's going nuts. Like
Creating support,
it's not only going nuts, it's creating support. This thing is like,
and then it's moving into the next range now,
yeah,
retesting it.
exactly. It's above. It's already in a breakout. It's already in a breakout.
Organic build.
Yeah, this is an organic build. What I'm trying to show you guys is like, look for stuff like this. Like, don't
That's
chase the old beta. Don't chase, bags of somebody else. Look for stuff like this. Now, what is this one? Well, again, come over here, you look at it, it's basically a prediction model platform, right? Price analytics and price prediction. So it's a pretty cool model as far as what it is. I could definitely see this catching a bid in the next bull run for people that are like trying to ultra speculate for some weird reason because they want to see price go to a certain point and they're going to bleed this thing and probably get wrecked. But this is a prediction model. See, simplified crypto prediction platform.
So is that a toolbox with a UI?
Yeah, yeah. This is a toolbox right here. Launched app, has everything on it, and you got to have their token to use it. Look right here, price predictions. Who would not? Who would not pay to look and see, who the best people are on basically in crypto, what prices they're predicting.
That's really expensive in a bull run.
Yeah, this will do really well in the bull run. Look, and you can even see like if people are right, there's payouts, right? There's payouts. Look at this, 421,000, 389, right here, 437. So like these are payouts if you're right or wrong. Look at your leaderboard. Winning rate 48.66 right here.
Is that your wallet, Will?
No. look at this guy right here. 440 rounds winning. out of 606. So again, you got to put together kind of the difference. You know, do the percentages like, all right, he's a 2 out of 3 or a 1 out of 3. Like, but these are people that are basically giving price predictions, probably in a time scenario, so on and so forth. I'm not trying to show you guys this. What I'm trying to tell you is like, you know, this looks like a pretty good project overall from the floor. And this is why I said I'm not trying to show you. From the floor, it's up from 0.006. What's the current price right now? 21.46. So if it's 21.46, how many X's is done already? Close to about 40 already. Imagine if this makes it into the bull run. This could easily do a lot more, right? Again, this is a really high risk beta coin, though. Really, really high risk. But when did this come out? When did it come out?
She's brand new.
Brand new.
It's all but just done like a bit of a seed round, and then it's built up, and it's just kept justifying itself.
Yep. And it's creating basically confidence in the coin. Now, could this coin go to 0? Sure. Sure. It's low liquidity. I think it's sitting at like 14 mil cap, something like that. But at the end of the day, these are things I'm digging out, right? These are things I'm looking at when it comes to crypto. And really, hey, you could have been accumulating, and then boom, you're in a secular bull market. 40x. Now, did everybody know it was going to do 40x? No, nobody knew it was going to do 40x. But the point being is it did. And it's still very low cap, even at a 40x. Very low cap. So again, it's about your perspective and what you're looking to get into.
Just a question: you got total supply and max supply there. So the total supply, is that the circulating supply?
Yeah, so total and max is already out. It's
It's
fully
already out,
diluted.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it can't dilute.
It can't
Fuck.
dilute. Yeah,
Yeah, epic.
it cannot dilute. This is it's an easy no-brainer play for me, right? It can't dilute. It's a set amount. It's maxed out. It can't go any higher as far as supply.
Would you even
It's
touch it
beautiful.
right now though?
Yeah, I mean, I bought some today. Like,
Oh really?
yeah, it's like I don't care where it's like the market cap is so small. I'll buy here, I'll buy down here. If it comes back down, I'll buy again. That's what it is. But the point again, the point being is that as long as you have your risks associated correctly and you're looking towards the next bull run, these kind of plays will be really good, right? If you're looking towards trading to next month or the next 2 months, like these may not be the play because I could be up here one day and then all of a sudden the next week, you know, maybe a big whale that has a bunch of coins, like, oh, I'm gonna offset some of my risk. And they drop it back down to like 8 cents, right? Because the liquidity is not that high. A lot of people are gonna sell. Anyway, oh, this thing's going to 0. I'm just gonna ride this out. That's basically it. I put it in my wallet, it's there. I'm not trading it. I think the opportunity cost is to the upside personally. So if I think the opportunity cost is to the upside, does it make any sense for me to be trading these things? No, it makes more sense for me to hold them to the next bull run and look at that as the opportunity. Now, granted, I want you to keep in mind, see all this volatility right here? This is since what? 6/27, right? So if we look here, February, March, April, May, June. So basically, right in here, even though we've had all these ups and downs, this coin has been doing secularly really well, right? It's been doing really, really well. Even with all this price action movement, where if you look at something like Ethereum or any other big cap, they're getting wrecked. All of them are getting wrecked. So it's definitely interesting times. This is something I talked about entertaining too, was the lower low. You're actually below support now at this point with ICP. And you've fallen off of your bull trend, right? And you're retesting your low here, just like you are here. So really, ICP could come down more, right? I want to be realistic about that. Could come down more. ADA, right? I can say that about 20 more times fast. Uh, I think you're still coming down in a big way. I think you're coming down to this, 20 cent zone again, revisiting that more than likely. And then we'll see. We'll see if this trend continues to hold to the downside and if we can veer off of it, right? We do have we had a pretty strong trend up, and we've kind of violated that again here, just like on the other ones. So it's difficult. It's a difficult one to call here for ADA specifically. Caspa, right? This is something I pointed out to a lot of people. Now, granted, this thing could rip me in my face, and I could be completely wrong on this. What would be the scenario for that? Well, if Caspa gets above here, expectations are we've recaptured price here. Good, we're gonna hold, maybe run sideways and then break out again. So Caspa could be a good play too. But here's the thing: Caspa, the boat sailed. I think it's setting at $500 million to $1 billion roughly at this point, 400 million or something like that, 500 million. Like I'm just not interested in projects that where the boat is already set. I'm interested in projects that have a real project that are really low cap that I can capitalize on big time. Right, that's what I'm looking at right now for a lot of things. I'm looking for super high beta because there's no liquidity from anybody right now. It's super high beta. So when the liquidity comes, man, it's gonna be good. We can see here. This is another one that seems like it's doing pretty well as D space. And what I don't mean by chart standards look like shit. But if we look at strength here, strength is really good on this one, right? It looks like it wants to run. It looks like it wants to run. And where is this one? It's way below value. Way below value. Now, is the project still running? That's kind of the other question you got to think about. So I'd have to look into it specifically because I haven't looked at DSU in a while. But arguably, if it's doing well, then hey, we're in a good spot to be in DSU. And I don't know why I have Caspa repeated on here so many times. DXY, something else people like to entertain and talk about. Definitely a rejection here. Definitely a rejection. High time frame monthly. I would arguably say we've swung high and we're probably going to go short again. And if if dollar's going short, you know which way the direction the chart's going. I don't think dollar trades higher. I just don't. I think that you're looking to combat the trend here. And if you're looking to combat the trend, you got a long way down, right? You recaptured your dollar over here. This is your high range over here. I don't think you go much higher than this. So that being said, like I'm not super bullish on this specifically, but I do like oil right now. I think oil is the play. If we look at VIX, I talked about this the other day. We're back below the value range. I think VIX cools off all the way back down to 13. So if that's the case, hey, assets should run. But you basically have these secular trends for VIX. So that's basically the downtrend, uptrend, downtrend, uptrend, downtrend, uptrend, and now we're back in the downtrend phase. So this is your cool off phase. This is basically where the market is really ramped up, had a lot of liquidity injected, had a lot of liquidity going, and then it's cooling back down from that now, right? Your VIX is cooling back down. So you'll probably revisit these lows historically. That's what always tends to happen when you go into the cool down phase. You always tend to revisit this low, and I expect that price will do that again when it comes to VIX, right? VIX specifically. Let's see here. Man, I have way too many Caspas on here. BNB looking pretty ugly, pretty ugly. This is your test zone. This is your test zone. You break this zone, you go pretty deep. I have it shown here. It's pretty obvious where I would think price would go if it does. And I showed the cap here. Look at this perfect cap. Look, BNB, this is not the first time. Look, 1, 2, 1, 2. Same thing. And then what happened after that second retest? You got the breakdown. I think BNB is going to break down. Now, will it go as deep as most people expect? No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that at this point, we're probably looking at something like recapturing part of this and not all of it, right? So maybe like something in there coming down to like 86 or 100, right? There's too many people looking for this whole move here all the way back down to 41, I think. So I don't think they're gonna let that happen. But I do think they'll bait people by breaking back into this price range and getting people to go super short, only to rip it back in their face. So you got to be careful with this one. Uh Soul, yeah. I mean, we could look at Soul again. Like, consider those Dino coins. If you're gonna operate on the chains, buy coins to operate on the chains. If you're not gonna operate on the chains, what is the point in buying them? Buy something new. Etzker completely obliterated. Still kind of got an uptrend going here, but man, this coin is just it just loves abuse. Velas, yeah, we can get Velas. I think it's VLO, right? Or no, that's Valero. I have Velas on here. VLX. Yeah, let's go with this one. USD. Yeah, another one of those too. Actually looks overbought here. My apologies, I was on mute. Yeah, so Velas is, it could definitely be down more from what I'm seeing. Stochastic a little bit overreaching. RSI is rolling the floor. RSI is screaming it needs some relief, but Stochastic saying it could still come down more. So maybe revisit the lows here. Around 4 cents. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about these. This one didn't really see a secular bull run really in reality. It just kind of ran in 2021 with everything else that fell over. So I think this one will still do well moving into the next cycle. It's a matter of where we see that reversal. I don't know if we're seeing a reversal at all in this yet. It's still kind of downtrending. I do hold a little bag of this too. I've been holding for much higher though, but it is what it is. I'll let it play out until it doesn't. But I've read a lot of bags down, just like I've read a lot up. And some I just let them ride through the bear run. I don't really care about price too much. I don't care about even updating on them if they're in a downtrend, they're in a downtrend. And if I need to add, then I'll add. Let's see. Yeah, no problem. RTX. Let's look at Soul real quick. That's an interesting one. I think a lot of people talk about it. Don't understand it. I mean, Soul got really close to my initial thoughts on price. It just didn't make it all the way. Let's go. Oh, that's why. I'm not YouTube was. Soul USD. Here we go. I haven't touched the chart, guys. I haven't touched the chart. Look at that. Look at that. I already had it drawn out, man. That's hilarious. Yeah, so you can see here, my expectations were a roll back over into this lower zone. It looks like we're kind of holding this upper zone. I mean, we could see it. We could see it. We definitely dipped really deep right there, right? But I think we're in like this chop zone that's kind of like coming down. You do have a decent amount of momentum here, but you also have a lot of resistance, I think, here too. I don't know who's buying this, like in these ranges and this is massive buys. But like to me, it's almost like we're coming to a pinch point to where like where does price go from here? We just keep retesting the same high and not really going anywhere. So it's like, what are expectations here? Yeah, I don't know. I think it follows the line that I had drawn originally, and that's this line right here. Just wheedles back down to these lows, just like EGLD did. Let's see. RTS. So I don't have it on here. Visit it as soon as a stock. RTS Court, maybe. Yeah. I think that was pretty obvious, man. Look at that. Look, you're just coming back to lows. Coming back to retest lows. That's it. It's like the easiest play ever. It's like the normie play, right? You can just come all the way back into this range very easily from here. I think you continue to drop. I could down to like 58, something like that, 60. That's where, like, if I were looking to bid, that's where I would bid. Definitely in a secular uptrend for like a long period of time. At some point, because this has been this way for so long, we consider this sideways accumulation. So at some point, this right here turns into something like this and rips at some point. I don't expect a breakdown here just because of the amount of accumulation to the upside that they've had here for in a long period of time. So definitely a bid move, but like, where do you bid? I guess is really the question. Do you bid here? Do you bid there? It's all about your perspective on the stock. So just definitely be careful with this one because you could see a decent amount of downside. Keep in mind, 50, seeing yourself in the 50s, that's a good amount of drop there. You'd be looking at a good 24-25% haircut on your portfolio if you were to get into those ranges. So it all depends on your perspective, I guess, when it comes to this one. Let's see. Flex. Oh man. Let's go to oil real quick. I want to explain this because I feel like this is a consistent rebuttal scenario I get from people like, oh, oil this, oil that. Like, do you really understand oil or are you just talking? This is kind of the scenario I was looking at originally. I was just looking at price to kind of veer out here. We're seeing it plain as day. Do we break down from here? Do we catch a bid? That's really the question. You have a lot of resistance overhead right here. Boom, boom. I think you come back up and retest though. You do break through, but if you don't come back up and retest, you wheedle back down, right? And arguably this then becomes a range. At least accumulation sideways, whatever you want to call it, range, and price should kind of remain there stagnant, not really doing a lot between the two ranges other than creating inflation, then allowing disinflation, then creating inflation, allowing so this is going to be a pretty crazy market, I think, overall. But expectations were since 2021 that we'd roll back up and potentially come back and recapitulate the 2008 highs over here. And then once that were to occur at that point, you get the implosion move back down, which is right over here. That's where markets get kind of really wrecked. But this obviously, as you can see, would take much longer to occur. You'd be like in the 2024, 2025, maybe even a 2026, where you actually start to see that real downturn on the oil market. To the 10, do I have that somewhere? Man, I feel horrible, guys. Sorry. Very sick right now. Let's see. O2. Yeah, when I look at bonds, like, I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions here. The Fed could play with this very easily. How they could do that is just buy into bonds, push them down, force another country to buy the bonds, and they sell back into the buying pressure. And you accumulate the range, right? You basically Fed buys to push down. Country A buys, pushes, or sorry, the Fed buys here. Country A sells. Fed buys here. Country B sells. Fed buys here. country C sells, Fed buys here, and then country A now starts to buy, and then Fed kind of sits and sells here, and then Fed or country B starts to buy, and then Fed sells here. It's a very, or sorry, country B, and then Fed sells here. It's a very interesting move here. A lot of people don't realize that the Fed can continue to manipulate the bond market if they want to, through buys and sells. So, like, to have expectations of like 10% bonds or yada yada, I think it's a little outlandish. I think there's ways to offset that for the Fed, and they'll use those tools. And they'll keep price kind of suppressed around these ranges, unless they're going to raise rates, obviously, right? Because if they raise rates, then we'll probably see higher bond yields. But if they don't raise rates, I expect rates to be capped kind of where they are, and kind of trapped between these two ranges. RLB, yeah, sure, we can look at that. I don't feel like people should chase RLB, to be honest with you guys. Like, it's an exchange token. I mean, you could chase it with the intention of dumping it into the next cycle, but like chasing it on some kind of high beta play, I don't know. Not a real big advocate of that for this one. I feel like it's an normie play. Everybody knows about it, so like that's not a good thing. Yeah, that definitely broke trend. I mean, it's an accumulation sideways. I can see RLB easily trading back down into here, right? We didn't get the breakout move, so I'd expect it to kind of swing fail, probably back into the 8-4, 8-6-4. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this one plays out, but I could definitely see them coming back down and trying to recapture a price source right here. You got a gap right here, right? Or at least an FVG right in here that could easily be filled, and that would get priced down to like 7-1, 7-2. So I'd watch that. You got another FVG right here, you got another FVG right here, so definitely some interesting times, but nothing I'd be too interested by myself, to be honest with you. Yeah. Again, overall, I just want to be clear. Sorry, I'm just like really brain foggy right now. It's not feeling too great. Overall, I want to just be very clear. Just continue to ignore the rage bait that you're seeing on Twitter. Continue to do what you've been doing. You can definitely feel bad for what's happened to the people. That's understandable. That's human. But don't get involved in the day-to-day politics and geopolitical BS. Not saying what happened is BS, but like don't get involved with that stuff. Like it's just bad for your mental, right? You don't want to disrupt your mental and your focus on things that you can't control and out of your control at the end of the day. Stay focused on you. Continue to ignore fun. Understand what value is occurring when you're in a value range. Again, in my opinion, we've had this massive fall, to grace, and I think arguably we're probably in that value range. So stay focused on you. Don't over position yourselves. There's no reason we have time. There's no reason to panic and be like, I need to put everything I have in here, and then all of a sudden 1 week you don't have money for gas and you got to sell at a loss. Like that's not worth your time and effort. Save some money on the side, save money for gas and food, whatever else you need, and invest leisurely. It doesn't matter if you get $100 in or if you get $1,000 in or you get $10,000 in. Just try to get in what you can when you can, and leave yourself some buffer room for if market volatility brings markets down, it's going to be worse on your buying pressure, right? Your buying pressure is also going to take a hit from that. You're going to go to the store, groceries are going to be up, gas is going to be up, you're going to be paying more. So you got to make sure you're prepared for those type of things and those type of situations if that were to occur. A lot of people look at the black swan event like that's where I need to buy. But in reality, if a black swan event happens, you're probably going to be paying a lot more for your everyday use products. And you'll probably end up not being able to buy it at all because you're trying to just keep up with the bills. So, that's why dial it down while you have the side money. Use the money you would use to go like watch a movie or whatever and continue to invest. I'm not trying to provide you guys financial advice, obviously. I'm just trying to tell you like how I'm doing it, man. I'm just every time I get chances, I just throw money in here and throw money in here and throw money in here. I'm continuing to buy things of value, new projects, new things. I think there's a lot of value in this space if you just pay attention. And I showed you a couple coins that have been in a secular bull run, even through all the volatility that we've seen. So always pay attention to that. Stay away from the grifters, guys. Just stay away from them. There's a lot of them in the space. Like follow whoever you want to follow for alpha, but like people that are flipping off their like TA to jump on politics, and people that are jumping off their TA to try and like get people to click on their Twitter pages and click on their links. Like it's just you got to stay focused on what you're good at. You can't flip flop. A lot of people that are grifting won't even be relevant in the next cycle. Not saying that you have to be relevant, but just pay attention to what's going on. I'll open the floor for like the last 5 minutes if you guys got anything you want to throw out there. I'm really not feeling well to cover more charts, but we'll do this again for sure. So if any of you guys want to say anything, you go ahead.
What are your biggest bags, Will?
My biggest bags.
Yeah.
I won't lie. At the moment, I would say probably my biggest right now is Bitcoin. I know it sounds retarded, but I'm expecting Bitcoin to go up while other things bleed, man. That's really the expectation here, and I'm going to rotate that capital back into alts. Obviously, I'm not staying in Bitcoin for the. I just think in the short term we can see alts kind of pull back in a big way, and while Bitcoin goes the other way, and I can just capitalize on the move to get more altcoin.
That's not going to be for a while.
Yeah. And that's the thing with a lot of these alts. These alts can bleed in that time frame, right? If we're not really seeing a lot of price action. I know that doesn't sound too exciting, but that's what I've been doing with a lot of my stuff right now. It's actually been profitable because I did buy quite a bit in the 25K range. We jumped up to like 28. Alts bled, so I made more alt money on my Bitcoin money essentially. And I did buy alts when I did that. When we moved up into the 28K range, I bought some more alts with the money that I had basically essentially made off of Bitcoin moving up. So at the moment, like I don't know, like I have some top tens. Like Dot, I do have a decent amount of Dot, Cosmos, Near, Arbitrum. Bullish on all those. Just not putting my whole bag in those, right? Like I think there's better plays for bigger amounts of money. Yeah, I have Algo too. So I'm continuing to play. I have those already, so I'm trying to find higher beta stuff to add to my portfolio to really kind of push me over that risk curve without going into things like shitcoins, right? Essentially, try to find real products and real projects with real teams that I can put money into and get 20-30x in the middle of a bear run. So, and I actually showed you guys I told you guys I just bought that. That's the Hilo, right? HILO. I think that one looks like a pretty solid project. There's a couple other ones, DSLA, and a couple other ones too that I'm eyeballing. But I'll definitely keep you guys up to date as I'm kind of moving along in the space. A lot of the stuff you guys already know what I bought because I haven't posted in Discord in my portfolio scenario. A lot of that I'm still holding, and I'm gonna continue to hold it to the next bull. Rivian did really freaking well. Like I don't know how many of you guys got in on that, but it did really well. Lucid not so much, but I am very bullish on Lucid. When you look at the books, and I'll talk about it with you guys too on the books, right? When you look at the books, yeah, Lucid looks really good. It's like that one looks really good as far as books go. Debt to cash on hand to appreciation of value, so on and so forth. There's a lot there. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. You guys have any other questions? All right. Well, we're gonna cut it there, guys.
Thank you, Will. That was really sobering. Thank you.
No, 100%. Yeah. We'll definitely try to do this more often.
Take
Again,
care.
I still got out of here even though I didn't feel too well, just to try and I didn't want to let you guys down again. So. I tell you guys I'm sick. You guys like, yeah, that guy's lying. So I was like, man, I can't do that. I was like, you're get out here anyway. But yeah, it's been an interesting week, interesting month, interesting year. I'll definitely try to make more time for everybody though. I'll try to be in here again next week, or not next this coming weekend. We'll talk about it. I'm gonna try and I'm trying to decide a day. I think it's Sunday. Might be best for me. And I'll record these sessions and post them and stuff. If you guys have church and stuff, definitely understandable. I'll try and get a time that makes sense so people can do those things in the morning if they need to. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Again, just focus on you guys, man. Focus on your money, focus on your pockets. There's a lot of things going around in the world right now. Just don't let them distract you from the bigger picture here. There's true wealth to be made. You can actually change things with money. You can't change things with screaming from the corner of your room how you're outraged about something happening in another country that you're not involved with. So just I hope that's more wisdom than than upsetting people, but I try to provide solid, comprehensive thoughts when I talk about these things. And it doesn't mean I'm heartless, guys. Again, I want to be very clear about that. I think about them more in a logical standpoint. I hope people understand that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. We'll chat again. Like I said, I'll probably post something Friday to let you guys know kind of time and day. But I'm definitely gonna try and make it a regular thing for you guys. It's just been a rough 6 months, but we're getting through it. I think we're getting to the point where people need to really start paying attention. And I'm gonna try to be here to make sure that you guys are paying attention. Because it's very important right now if you're really looking to wait out the current market, man. I feel like a lot of people are just having a hard time with it, and they're walking away as opposed to understanding the risk factor of walking away now versus like 6 months to a year ago. Because I think it's much worse now if you walk away than it was six months to a year ago. I mean, if you made it this far, it's better to just keep moving forward and understanding that all the issues you've dealt with and all the drama and the money, probably even money loss and everything else, through different scenarios, like you can get that back. This is where you do that, but you got to do it right. That's really what it is. That doesn't mean shit coins. That doesn't mean some own fork. It means staying steady, investing in steady projects, and dialing your risk appropriately, not going full degen. Yeah, so that's my thoughts overall. I hope you all have an amazing night, and like I said, I'll get with you guys on some kind of scheduling this Friday, and we'll meet again on probably Sunday. This was my thoughts. Just so you guys have a heads up. All right, guys, we'll see you.